Hello fellow YouTubers, welcome to G-Tech. In this episode, we dive into upgrading our repaired vintage phase linear 400 Series 2 amplifier with some top-notch components from White Oak Audio. A few years ago, I assembled two White Oak Audio PL14 control board kits. Now it's time to finally put one of them to use. First, we already replaced the old control board with a new White Oak Audio version. To handle the increased power demand, we install a 50 amp bridge rectifier and assemble White Oak Audio's Bridge Snubber kit, complete with bypass capacitors to reduce line noise. And also this kit includes a solid aluminum neutral bus bar. Throughout the video, we walk through each step, from soldering and mounting the new components to rerouting some wires for a cleaner look and upgrading the neutral control board connection per White Oak specifications. Well, let's get started. A few years ago, I assembled two White Oak Audio PL14 control boards. These boards are a fantastic upgrade for older phase linear amplifiers, offering better performance and reliability. Let's take a closer look at one of these assembled boards. You'll notice that this board uses Phoenix connectors. These connectors make it much easier to remove and install the board compared to the solder connections on the original board. This can be a big advantage when it comes to maintenance or repairs. Now check out the bottom of the board. Here you see two 3-pin Phoenix connectors. These are used to connect the bias transistors, which are mounted on the amp heat sinks. The bias transistors play a critical role. They reduce the bias current in the output stage as they heat up, which helps prevent thermal runaway and keeps the amplifier stable. Moving on to the jumpers, there are configuration jumpers that let you set up the board for different types of output stages. For this amp, we're using a quasi-complementary output stage. That means all the transistors are NPN, which is different from a fully complementary design where you would have a mix of NPN and PNP transistors. I already removed the old PL36 board that we recently repaired and installed the new White Oak Audio control board. Here's how it looks after the installation. The original capacitors in this amplifier are rated at 5900 microfarads and 85 volts. We'll be replacing them with new capacitors rated at 22,000 microfarads and 100 volts. This upgrade will give the amp more power reserve and improve overall stability. While we are installing the new capacitors, let's talk about the bridge rectifier. The original rectifier is rated for 20 amps. I was concerned it might not be enough to handle the startup surge from the larger capacitors. To solve this, I purchased and will be upgrading to a 50 amp bridge rectifier and installing a Snubber kit from White Oak Audio. The Snubber kit is designed to reduce line noise and improve the overall power supply performance. It comes with 4 bypass capacitors, a sturdy aluminum bus bar to replace the original copper one, and the bridge rectifier itself. First, we'll solder the bypass capacitors. Be sure to take your time and make clean connections here. It'll pay off in terms of reliability. Now that the bypass capacitors are in place, we'll solder the bridge rectifier. With that done, the Snubber kit is fully assembled and ready for installation. Now, let's mount the new capacitors and bus bar. We'll start by attaching the positive terminal of one capacitor to the bus bar's end hole, and then connect the negative terminal of the second capacitor to the other end of the bus bar. This bus bar will serve as a neutral rail for our power supply. Next, we'll remove the old bridge rectifier and capacitor clamps, then disconnect the original capacitors and set them aside. we'll need to install a bolt to mount the new bridge snubber to the transformer. To access the mounting plate, we'll need to unbolt the transformer and reposition the chassis. Once that's done, we can secure the new rectifier in place. The Snubber kit instructions suggest drilling out the mounting hole, but I was able to tighten the bolt directly with a screwdriver for a snug fit. Now we can reassemble the transformer and bolt it back into the chassis. Now, let's install the power supply capacitors and the bridge snubber. With everything mounted, it's time to wire the power supply. We'll start by stripping and tinning the red primary wires from the transformer and soldering them to the AC terminals on the bridge rectifier. Let's go ahead and remove the old copper neutral bus bar by cutting the white neutral wires and the black transformer neutral off it. Next, let's install the wiring terminals on the bus bar. For the connections from the rectifier to the capacitor, I'm using thicker gauge wire, red for the positive rail and black for the negative. I've already attached ring connections to one side of each wire. Let's solder the end of the wire to the positive terminal on the bridge rectifier and connect the ring terminal to the positive capacitor terminal. We'll do the same with the black wire on the negative side. During the process, I accidentally cut off the ring terminal from the negative rail wire that feeds the control board and the 8 amp rail fuse. To fix this, I stripped and tinned the wires, installed a new ring terminal, and connected it to the negative capacitor terminal. Now, we will strip and tin the neutral wires and solder them to the bus bar. We will now connect the ring terminal of the fuse on the positive side of the power supply rail and control board to the capacitor on the positive side of the power supply. Let's solder the black neutral wire from the transformer secondary to the bus bar and reroute the control board power wires underneath the existing wiring. This helps keep everything neat and organized. One last step. The original neutral wire from the control board connects the right Phoenix terminal to the neutral on the input RCA jack. According to White Oak Audio's documentation, we should move this wire from the left Phoenix terminal and connect it to the neutral bus bar. Let's make that change. We will stop here on this episode. By no means is this the completion of the upgrade. We will continue the upgrade in the next episode with replacing the line cord, adding temperature-controlled cooling fans, better speaker binding post, and a brand new black faceplate. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for the next episode, and if you enjoy this video, share, hit the like button, and subscribe. Well, that's a wrap. Bye.